If you got left behind by the tribe, you were done.
Thanks for listening to Guidance in Recovery. I'm Keegan Reed, and every week I speak with guests to honestly explore recovery, sobriety, the struggles that come with it, and find things that help us in our recovery journeys. Today, we're speaking to Jessica Setnick. She is a registered dietitian, and she has helped redefine what it means to treat eating disorders and rather how we look at them in the first place. Stick around and learn some deep insights into what actually could be causing someone to not eat properly and what we can do about it. Yeah, oof, that is really complex. And for some reason, the first thing that pops in my head is like the person that plants a tree knowing that they won't have the fruits of it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you can't be guilty like, oh, this tree is here giving me fruit that my great grandparents planted and they can't have it. I mean, but there's different ways that you could work around that too. But you'd have to kind of, I guess, like you said, figure out your iceberg and figure out what you really is driving the situation.
Yes, you can't change it if you don't know. And that's where I think a lot of people try to change their eating behaviors and then are disappointed when they don't achieve it. And we have this word for it, like, I don't have enough willpower. And willpower is nothing compared. I mean, think about, do you have enough willpower to hold your breath? Right? There's going to be a point where your body fights back. And it's the same thing. If you think you have enough willpower to overcome your unconscious, no, your body will fight back.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up because one of the things I've learned in my healing and recovery journey is that my subconscious is my body and it's like 10 steps ahead of me. Like, no matter how much I think I'm on the right path to catching up to it, it's always 10 steps ahead. It is way better at chess than I'll ever be. And and so it's like, as soon as I get a glimpse of a problem or something that I can work on, it's already working on the next thing for me to uncover and work on and heal, you know? And so like and that's the other thing too, is that there's layers to everything else, right? So just because someone figures out a portion of the iceberg doesn't mean it's all of it, right?
That's also true. And I get a little bit apprehensive, like, I don't know if scared is quite the right word, but kind of icked out when I think like, what? There's stuff going on in my brain that I don't know about. And it just like, I don't like that. Who is in charge? You know? And I just try to remind myself, well, also, you know what? My lungs are breathing and I'm not in charge of that. And it's actually a good thing because that would take up all my time is if I had to pay attention to every breath, right? And my heart's beating and I'm not in control of that. So I try to believe like, okay, this other stuff, this is just like working itself out. It's okay to not be like consciously in control of every single thing, but it's a little bit, I don't know if scary, like I said, is quite the right word, but it feels a little bit like too loosey-goosey, you know? I want to at least know what's going on. And honestly, I think that therapy, journaling, like there's a lot of things that do help you kind of access that EMDR. And I'm sure you've tried some of those things too that kind of help you access it, but not in the sense of I want to control it. It's more like, thank God it's taking care of me. It just maybe like to be like a silent partner.
I mean, you bring up a really good point because sometimes the things that help us survive end up being the things that are actually causing us some trauma later on and down the road.
Yes, I love that you said that because survival is, okay, now we have full circled it back to anthropology because the people who survive are the people who pass on their genes to us. The people who survive are the people who pass on their culture to us, right? People pleasing is a survival skill. Fitting in is a survival skill. Because if you think back to the time when we all lived in a tribal setting and we moved from place to place, we didn't have agriculture, we didn't have homes. If you got left behind by the tribe, you were done.
Yeah.
So you kind of had to fit in your role in the tribe to stay together. Now, I will also say, I think those tribes were a lot more appreciative of the diversity of human experience, human personality, etc. And so they carried along more, they did less ostracizing than we do now. But nevertheless, the goal was to not be ostracized because then you cannot survive. And so we learn from, let's say, a parent who says, eat everything on your plate, blah, blah, blah. We learn to go along to get along. And maybe that's what we need to do. And in some situations, it's really bad, right? Like if you don't eat everything on your plate, you're going to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
or you're going to get locked out. Like,
Mm.
I'm not naive enough to think that everyone has this happy childhood where parents do things out of love. Okay. I've heard it all. Whatever
Uh-huh.
weird shit you think you do with your food or your origin story, I have heard it all. Okay. I don't want to say that because every time I say I've heard it all, I hear something new and terrible. Okay. But I've heard a lot of stuff that people have gone
Uh-huh.
through. Terrible, terrible things.
Mm.
And why am I talking about this? I have no idea. I don't know why I went down this path. But my point
Survival.
is that from an anthropological perspective, somewhere in time, this may have been a survival skill, right? Like we said,
Mhm.
eating everything on your plate was a survival skill. It just doesn't always apply anymore into the now. And so
Mhm.
it's not wrong that we carry this. It's just the cycle breaker is the person who is basically standing in front of the train saying, no, I will not let you steamroll over the next generation either. And it's
Mhm.
very hard to be that transitional person and say, you were doing the best you could, and I am also not going to do that to the next generation.
Ooh, so you're talking about kind of helping people become the cycle breaker.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. When it comes to intergenerational trauma, yes, someone has to be the cycle breaker. And not even intergenerational trauma always. Sometimes it is just intergenerational behavior, let's say. Because if
Okay.
you think about what I said about the people who survived are the
Mhm.
people who passed on their traits to us, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, let's say that there was something like, oh, let's use hangry. Let's just use hangry, right? Who survived to pass on their genes to us? The person who, when there wasn't enough food, they were like, oh, well, I guess I'll just sit here and starve. Or the person was
Mhm.
like, can I swear? I don't want to swear. Get the
Yeah,
F
yeah.
out of my way. Like, I got to go find some food, right?
Uh-huh.
Like,
Yeah.
we're descended from the person who survived because they got crabby, right? And so we have that behavior, but can we be aware of it when
Uh-huh.
it happens instead of just like vomiting our crabbiness on everyone?
Yeah. Ooh, okay. I love the way that you just brought that up too, because one of the things that I've learned in my recovery journey is that I have to sometimes halt and question like
Love
why I'm
halt.
doing some things. Yeah, so it's what uh
Don't
uh
get you hungry, angry,
yeah.
lonely, or tired. And I had an S,
Yep.
stressed.
Ooh, so halts or salt. Salt. Yeah. And I mean, it's weird how our slightest mood change can really affect how we do things, how we act, what we decide to do. Because I know for some people, eating is a comfort. Some people also like I know myself, I've been there where it's like, oh, I just went through some big, heavy emotional stuff, so I need a tub of ice cream. But I'm allergic to dairy, so it's both good and bad for me. But have you seen that some people's icebergs are also caused or the cause of food allergies? Like, do you deal with allergies in that
That's
sense?
interesting. I am not a food allergy expert, so I can't tell you what causes food allergies. What I can tell you is that everything may be connected and we just
Mm-hmm.
don't really have the answer. But I think that the wanting of a food
Uh-huh.
that will actually hurt you is really important because a healthy, happy, well-adjusted person, content, does not reach for a food that is going to hurt them or a substance. And
Mm-hmm.
the missing piece that I think a lot of people don't understand is that food is a mood altering chemical. And we
Ooh.
don't, I mean, hangry is the perfect example, right? I want a
Uh-huh.
divorce and then I eat lunch and I'm like, oh, I love my husband again, right? Food is a mood altering chemical. And it's the
Yeah.
easiest one to get your hands on when you're a kid, right?
Uh-huh.
So I hope, but
Uh-huh.
I mean, you even get it, in utero, which again, I hope you weren't getting other mood altering substances in utero, but you might have been intergenerational
Mm-hmm.
trauma.
Yeah.
But the idea is that we reach for food for a good reason.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just lack of willpower or stupid or whatever we tell ourselves. If you're reaching for ice cream when you're sad, it's because there is a benefit to it. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not congruent with how you want to live your life, which is not having diarrhea for an hour and a half or whatever. So
Yeah.
you have to kind of piece that together. Is there a better way to change your mood, or is it a matter of accepting your mood and living through it? So what
Mm-hmm.
happened when you were a kid, usually, is where this stuff starts. You're in a bad mood, so someone offers you ice cream. Oh, let's go get some ice cream. That'll be a good treat. And so we
Mm-hmm.
learn when you're in a bad mood, you get ice cream. Or some people, it was like, you got all A's, let's go out for ice cream. And so you learn ice cream is only for when you're good. I mean, there's so many different ways we can all relate to ice cream, I think. My ice cream origin story is that my dad grew up during the Depression. And when I would say there's an ice cream Baskin Robbins right around the corner from his watchmaking shop, and I would say, could I have $1 for ice cream? And he would say, same lecture every time, $1 for ice cream? We had to borrow 5 cents just to go see the doctor. And I'm sure he was, in his way, trying to say, wow, look what I've accomplished in my life. My kids don't even think $1 is anything, you know? But what it came out as is, wow, you're quite a burden. You know, you want $1 for ice cream. That's so frivolous. And so now we always have ice cream in my house. And every time we try a cheaper ice cream, I realize, like, no, we're not living in the Depression here. We're either going to have Blue Ball ice cream or no ice cream. I'd rather have no ice cream.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't go out to get a $9 gelato every time, right? I can get a half gallon of Blue Bell for $9. But my point is, I'm not willing to shame myself for whatever the cost of ice cream is. Ice cream, if I can, I always say, don't take me to the fair and tell me I can't get a corny dog. Don't buy me ice cream and tell me I have to eat some ice cream that I don't like because it's cheaper, right? I'd rather not have ice cream. So it's that kind of stuff that just gets jumbled, bungled. I don't know what the right word is. Even if the parent is celebrating, I mean, I'm just guessing that, you know, it was a positive thing for him, but it came out as like, you're a burden as a kid for wanting ice cream. That's not a healthy way to think about ice cream. Ice cream is just molecules, right? But it's all the meaning that we put on it.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I had an episode not too long ago where I was like, I was really angry for some silly reason. I don't know why, but after I got some sugar in me, everything was better. And so I was like, okay, well, that's strange. And the first thing I thought of was like, oh, I was just really hungry, but it was like a little snack. And I was like, maybe my blood sugar was low or something.
There is a dietitian I know whose signature line, you know how people sometimes put a quote in their signature line on their email? It says, happiness is a steady level of plasma glucose. It's like so nerdy. So awesome.
I mean, they've got a point there, you know, because that would just solve a bunch of things. And, well, not necessarily solve a bunch of things, but it is a biological factor we do have to keep in check.
I do believe everyone thinks that Americans overeat. I think one of our huge problems is that we undereat, because we're all, not we, us personally, but like everyone's on a diet, or let's say they, whoever the general they is, are on a diet, and then they're undereating, so then they overeat. It's a pendulum. It's not like overeating. Maybe some people have that, but I think a lot of people are undereating to overeating. Swing back. Undereating to overeating. I ate too much, I should eat less. And they keep swinging back. And so there's nothing steady about that experience.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up a good point, and I'm kind of sitting here thinking about my own eating habits, because I hardly ever have breakfast, but then I'll sometimes have a lunch, and then whenever it comes to dinner time is where it's like, all right, I'll eat like 2 dinners in a sense, but I'll also kind of snack throughout the day. And I know part of it was because whenever I was working like as an electrician, I didn't really have time for lunches, and like I would just get home, and that's whenever I would get all the calories that I needed. And then the next day, just ignore breakfast, and then maybe have a lunch, if that. And then, I mean, my alcoholism also didn't allow for a lot of food, but that was a whole nother situation. And nowadays, it's very much like, for now, my teeth are the reason I don't like eating a lot of stuff, because they're just kind of falling apart. And it's like, oh, well, I shouldn't have this because it's harder to chew or whatnot. But it's interesting, because it's like, I'm starting to wonder, like, am I actually eating enough? Because I've also always been on the leaner side, and so like, I don't know if it's more genetics or just the way that I've kind of viewed myself, because I always told myself growing up that I never wanted to be overweight, I never wanted to be fat. And so I don't know if part of that is like, I'm going to watch what I eat, but I also know that physically I can't eat a lot either, because I'm also allergic to a ton of foods. And who was it? I spoke to Melissa Hepner not too long ago, and she brought up the whole my eosinophilic esophagitis was probably caused by my self-belief and self-worth issues. And like, so it was very interesting. I have a lot of food related stuff I didn't realize that I need to actually explore myself.
Well, yeah, I think you are like a lot of people who think that we're just making conscious choices about what to eat all day and not
Yeah.
realizing what kind of iceberg is under there. And you've
Uh-huh.
named several different things. So if you look back at the origins of dysfunctional eating behavior model, you've got biological dysfunctional eating. So that's related to your teeth. And then
Hmm.
you've got addiction related dysfunctional eating. So that's, if you were spending all your money on alcohol and didn't have enough for food or that kind of thing. And then you have stress and trauma related eating issues. And then you have your environmental and learned behavior, which was focused on your body size and appearance and weight, which we all grow up with. And so you actually have something from all of the categories.
Huh.
It's a
Oh,
lot to unravel.
that is. Oh man, I didn't realize I was going to give myself homework after this episode. um, Real quick, where can people find you if they're looking for some more of you?
Sure. So my umbrella website is jessicasetnick.com. That is
Okay.
where everyone can go to find everything about me, professional consultation, eating disorders boot camp, how to hire me to give a talk at your event, those kind of things. But Food Fairy Tales is the one you put up before. I actually
Hmm.
changed the name of Food Fairy Tales to Healing Your Inner Eater. I'm going to send you a copy of the
Ooh.
Healing Your Inner Eater workbook after this
Okay.
so you can, go down that rabbit hole if you want to. And anyone
Uh-huh.
who's listening to this, if you go to Healing Your Inner Eater, that will tell you where, if there's any upcoming workshops that I'm doing. And you can we'll do a code, podcast code. Just put in
Okay.
podcast as a discount code, and that'll bring down the cost of the Healing Your Inner Eater workbook to $15.
Ooh, nice. Thank you for that. I much appreciate that. I know that the audience will as well. And I mean, I didn't realize that so much actually went on with eating food or the reason why we may or may not eat food the way we do. And I mean, that's one of those things is that a lot of people don't realize that eating disorders or the way that we do this kind of stuff, I think it's grossly underlooked, because whenever we talk about addiction or traumas, we're looking at substance abuse disorders and so on and so forth.
But the
And
overlap between addictions and eating problems is huge. The overlap between trauma and eating issues is huge. We're
mhm,
we're all the same person. All this stuff happens inside the same person, and so lots of things are impacted.
yeah. Do you think that we kind of overlook food because it's a necessity for life?
I'm not sure overlook is quite the right word. I guess the way I think about it is that everyone's experience is different. You can't put people into a box very easily, so it takes a lot of work. It's a lot easier to judge. It's a lot easier to dump people in a box. It's a lot easier to look at someone's weight and think you can tell a lot of things about that person. So I think it's more like lazy medicine, honestly.
I've never heard that term, lazy medicine.
Well, there's something else, and this is like a topic for another day, but
Uh-huh.
our field of eating disorders, oh my gosh, this is not meant to be like an explosive bombshell, but the field of eating disorders, unfortunately, was
Uh-huh.
based on a misconception that underweight women who don't eat enough is the eating disorder. Like anorexia was the only eating disorder for a long time, and it was skinny,
Huh.
white adolescent girls, the end.
Wow.
And so the
Huh.
whole field is based on a stereotype. It's not
Yeah.
correct at all.
Huh.
But here's the thing. We know that women's experiences, women's pain, women's medicine, etc., has been left out of the Western medical culture.
Yep.
I mean, it's just a fact.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think of the fact that eating disorders were miscategorized as a woman's illness in a culture that discounts women's illnesses, then that may be why we don't have a lot of information, why we don't think about it, why our medical profession doesn't give training in eating disorders, doesn't identify eating disorders until they're very severe. So I think it's more of a systemic issue than simply we as individuals don't think about food, because I think humans, especially in this diet culture, we do think about food a lot. It's just, it's a bigger, broader issue than that.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up because you're right. Whenever I was doing some research not too long ago, it was one of those things to where it was like, oh, all the medication that has dosages and stuff. Whenever you look at like women, they were just like, oh, they're just like smaller weight men, so we're just going to give them a little bit less or just appropriate dosage based on weight. And it's like, no, the physiology is completely different.
Yes. And it turns out that restrictive underweight eating disorder is a tiny percentage of people with eating disorders. There are a lot of people with eating disorders who don't fit that stereotype. And yet the whole model that we've for a long time was used for treatment was based on 6% of people. And there's 94% of people. There's men, there's transgender individuals, there's people from historically excluded groups in the research of eating disorders, specifically incarcerated population. There's a high rate of eating disorders, disabled population. There's so many features of eating issues that have never been explored. So how could we even teach about it? It's one of those things where I feel like we're all left to our own devices to eat. And with this message that it's all about willpower, it's all about knowing enough. If you think about the United States of America, we have more nutrition facts information on our food, on our packages, in our magazines, in our social media than anyone else in the world. And we are not even close to the healthiest. So all that information is not actually improving our eating.
That's a really good way to look at that. And I mean, you're right. And a lot of stuff that is acceptable over here in the US is actually banned over in like the UK, stuff like that, whenever it comes to snacks or sodas. And that's pretty telling right there. But, we are getting close to the end of this episode, so I got to ask, do you think that we could see you on in the future to dive into more of like what we can do about this whole food and eating epidemic? Because, I mean, there's a lot to unpack here, and I would love to hear your take on a bunch of different avenues, because if we're looking at like this little tiny part of a giant painting, I feel like we've just kind of brought in, like, we've taken a half step back from that painting, and we need to look at the different corners.
We're the penguin. We're the penguin on the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. And I mean, it's so fascinating because if we don't realize that we're doing this to ourselves, we also don't realize that we're possibly sending messages to other people or even the ones underneath us.
Yes.
So, real quick, are there any last words that you want to leave with the audience this afternoon? Because, I mean, we've covered a lot of ground, and I'm sure some people will have a lot to chew on, no pun intended. But
yes, I would just say, if there's anything you're doing with your food and you're just disappointed in yourself or ashamed or feel like you're, doing it wrong, please, please, please reach out to someone or write it down, anything that will help you get it out of your head, because I believe that shame is a killer. And if you blame yourself for your situation, then you have to sort of punish yourself. I mean, it's just not fair. Know that there are a lot of things set in motion before you even were born. There are things that are set in motion from a level that we can't actually even comprehend, probably. And it's okay. It's okay to reach out. If anyone wants help finding an eating disorder dietitian, even if you don't identify as having an eating disorder, I do think eating disorder dietitians, we are really good at kind of separating what is about food and what isn't about food. Could really help you with that. So please reach out to me if you want to, and I'll help you find someone in your area.
No, man, thank you for that. And thank you for that reminder that shame is a killer, because it really is. I didn't realize that shame was driving a lot of my addiction. And I mean, I can't imagine what shame does to a lot of other people if it could do what it did to me. So I think that that's something that we could all tackle as a society, is just become not shaming ourselves, because that is big. But Jessica, it has been an absolute honor and a pleasure speaking to you and learning all about this. And I'm excited for our next episode because, like I said, after I do my own little iceberg digging, I'm sure I'll have a lot more questions.
Okay, great. I look forward to it.
Awesome. Well, everyone out there, thank you for listening to Guidance in Recovery on WDJY 99.1 FM. And as always, try to love yourself, love others if you can, but you got to try to love yourself first, Be your favorite version of yourself today if you can. And if you're having a mental health crisis, you can call 988 or text 741-741 if you don't want to pick up the phone. This has been Jessica. This has been Keegan. And we'll see y'all in the next episode. Until then, much love. Much love.